Hello, class 7 students. How are you all? So, Prerna ma'am today is going to teach you chapter number 8 from your textbook, which is on page number 74. So, first, I want all of you to open your textbooks to page number 74, chapter number 8. All right. So, what is the name of the chapter? The name of the chapter is Akbar the Great, a case study. So we are going to read why Akbar was called as Akbar the Great. And what are the main points or what are the main topics that we are going to learn in this chapter? First is expansion of the empire. Second is conquest. Third is the administration. And fourth is art, religion, and culture. So we're going to understand how Akbar, he expanded the entire empire. Then what all areas did he conquer? How did he do that? How was the administration like, and what was the art and literature and the religion and the culture like when Akbar was ruling? Now, in the previous chapters, we have studied about Babur and Humayun, correct? So, Babur, he set the first, he set the founding stone for Mughal rule in India. And Babur, he was a very able commander. He won a lot. He fought a lot of battles, like the Battle of Panipat and the other battles. And he emerged victorious. But the weak point was that he was not, or he did not really pay much attention to the administration part. And gradually, he, the empire could not continue much. But then his son, Humayun, he was the successor. But talking about Humayun was that he had a lot of opposition. So there was opposition internally and externally. So he had a lot of problems, a lot of issues with rulers from Persia, from the Arabs, and then, from the internally also, his brothers were not really happy he becoming the, taking over the throne. And of course, we know that there was weak administration. Along with all of this, Babur also was not as good military commander as his father, Babur. However, what was the common positive point between Babur, the father, and Humayun, the son, was despite being defeated so many times, despite the fact that they lost their armies, what was the good point? That they were able to stand firm on their feet and rebuild the entire army, and gradually they were able to reconquer the areas that they had initially lost. Now we know that Humayun, he died in an accidental death because he fell from the staircase of his own library. Correct? And he was in exile for 15 years. So while he was in exile, he was actually preparing a strong army. He was trying to emerge victorious again, which he did also. And he was succeeded by his son Akbar, whom we call as Akbar the Great. So why this happened? This is what we are going to study in this chapter. Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar, he added a glorious chapter in the Mughal history during his 49 years of rule. What were the years? 1556 to 1605 BC. So he added glory to the Mughal Empire. How did he do that? So the second Mughal emperor, we know Humayun, he died in 1556 AD, and his son Akbar, who was only 14 years of age, he ascended the Mughal throne. Bairam Khan, who was also trusted, a very trusted general of Humayun, was appointed the regent of Akbar. Regent meaning someone who was a kind of a temporary ruler, you can say. So basically, Akbar was sitting on the throne, but then who was actually telling him what to do? It was Bairam Khan. All right. So now we talk about the second battle of Panipat. We know the first battle of Panipat, correct, between Babur and Lodi. Now we talk about the second battle of Panipat. Soon after his annexation to the throne, Akbar was challenged by Humayun, who was the army chief of Adil Shah Suri. The forces of Akbar and Humayun, they met at the second battle of Panipat in November in 1556 AD. And in the second battle, Humayun was killed and the Mughals, they emerged victorious. After the Panipat victory, the Mughal forces under Bairam Khan's leadership, what did they do? They captured Agra, Delhi, and Gwalior. And these victories were once again established by the Mughal supremacy in India. Now, conquest under Akbar. So Akbar, he followed the policy of conquest and he conquered Malwa, Gujarat, Bengal, Kabul, Kashmir and Khandesh. And he succeeded in building an empire that stretched from the Hindu Kush in the west to the Brahmaputra in the east. So covering like this. And from the Himalayas in the north and to the Godavari River in the south. So he was covering all the four directions, north, east, west and south. And of course, there were various battles which he fought to extend his empire in all the four directions. What were these battles? Let's study that. Okay. So we started about the second battle of Panipat. The first is the battle against Malwa Gundapna. So Baz Bahadur, who was an Afghan, who was the king of Malwa, he basically, when Akbar sent his forces for its capture in 1561 AD, so this was Akbar's first battle as an emperor. So Malwa was easily captured as Baz Bahadur did not put up any fight and rebel. So he did not even try to save his area. He easily gave up Malwa region. In 1564 AD, Akbar's general Asaf Khan, he attacked Garh Katana or Gundavna. The minor king and his regent mother, Queen Durgavati, fought bravely, but they were defeated, and the queen committed suicide after the defeat. Then friendship with the Rajputs. This is very famous. There was a deep-rooted friendship between the Mughal rulers and the Rajputs, and the credit mainly goes to Akbar. So Akbar, he did not want to waste his resources in fighting the brave Rajputs. So he realized that the help of the valiant Rajput warriors would be quite useful in his battles for expansion. So to win the friendship of the Rajputs, he undertook the following steps. First, there was a matrimonial alliance. So he would get probably some areas that were ruled by the Rajputs in the form of dowry. Then he also granted honors and high positions to the Rajput rulers and nobles. And important provinces like Gujarat, Lahore, Kabul, and Agra, they were put under the control of Rajputs. So this way, Rajputs also started trusting Akbar that, he's given us such important areas to look after. Raja Bhagwan Das served as the joint governor of Lahore, while his son Raja Man Singh was given the charge of Kabul. And Rajput nobles, Birbal and Todarmal, they held high positions in the court. So we have heard a lot of interesting stories about Akbar and Birbal. Then Akbar, he also ensured that, he did not capture or conquer any areas that were under the Rajput rulers whom he had defeated in the war. And after accepting the sovereignty or the, the friendship or the kind of good behavior that Akbar was putting up, they enjoyed political independence. So sovereignty meaning the right of one ruler or country to rule over the other country. So they had to pay an annual tribute to Akbar, which they easily accepted. He did not interfere with the culture and religion of Rajput. So this is a very beautiful point about Akbar. So he did not try to impose any religion monopoly or any kind of interference in terms of culture, in terms of art. He gracefully accepted their culture. Then battle against Mewar. So Uday Singh of Mewar, he refused to give his daughter in marriage to Akbar. So angry at Uday Singh's refusal, Akbar, what did he do? He attacked Chittor, the capital of Mewar, and the Mughal forces laid siege of the Chittor fort, which is also called as Chittorgarh, for 4 months and then captured it. Resistance by Rana Pratap Singh. So the capture of Mewar signaled the end of Rajput resistance to the Mughal rule. Soon, most of the Rajput rulers, they started accepting Akbar as the ultimate ruler. The Rajputs of Mewar, they kept their resistance alive in Udaipur, which was founded by Uday Singh after escaping from Chittor. After the death of Uday Singh, his son Rana Pratap Singh, he carried on the fight against Akbar. Then the Battle of Haldi Ghati. This is also a very famous battle. The army of Rana Pratap Singh, it clashed with the Mughal army, which was led by Raja Man Singh of Amber. The Rajputs of Mewar were defeated and the Mewar was annexed into the Mughal Empire. However, Rana Pratap Singh, he continued his fight till death. Then talking about Bengal, Gujarat and Northwest. So he himself, Akbar himself led the expedition in these areas. And Northwest, he captured Kabul, Kandahar, Kashmir, Sindh and Balochistan. Then of course, campaigns in the Deccan. So there were Deccan kingdoms like Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, Berar. They did not accept Akbar's rule. They said that we are not going to become a part of the Mughal Empire. So Akbar launched attacks on these and he was successful in capturing these areas. It was only after the death of Chand Bibi that the Mughals succeeded in capturing Ahmednagar. Now we're going to talk about the administration. So this is all about whatever we have started till now, is that what all areas did Akbar fought with, or with all the areas that he got into some alliance with, so as to extend the rule of the Mughal Empire. Now, after doing all this, or why he was doing all this, what was the administration like? Let's study that. So we talk about the central administration. So his decision, which was the final word of law, commander-in-chief of armed forces, supreme judge on all matters of justice. So and he had sole right in making appointments and dismissal of commission. So these were the council of ministers. So Wazir or Diwan, who was responsible for the revenue department. Mir Bakshi, who was the head of military affairs, or the Mansabdars. Qazi, the chief judge. This was studied in previous chapters also. And then the chief Sadr, who was the supervisor of the royal household. Let's study something more about them. So this is what we have studied. So emperor also constituted a council of ministers. So council of ministers consisted of Wakil or prime minister, or the Qazi, who was the chief judge. Then we know about the central administration, important officials, Wazir, we've just started, head of the revenue department, Mir Bakshi, the head of the military department, and Thane Sana, who took care of the needs of the royal household. And Akbar himself, he appointed provincial governments, military commanders. So he personally took that effort of appointing these people just to ensure that only the right people are appointed. And then we know about Diwane Khas also, that is the hall of private audience. He discussed the administrative affairs with the officials and minister. And where did he meet the common people? In Diwane? That was the hall of public audience. He accepted their petitions and solved their problems. Okay, so as I told you that he actually made that effort to solve the issues that the people were facing. Moving on. So now we talk about the provincial administration. So Subas, then Sarkars, then Parganas, and then Grams. So this is something that we have studied in the previous chapters also. Right? So we know that Akbar had a vast empire. It was divided into 15 provinces called Subas. So each Suba, it was administered by a Subedar. All right. And who appointed him? The emperor himself. And Subedar was someone who handled both civil and military matters. Another important official was Diwan, who supervised the land revenue. And each Suba or the district was divided into Sarkars. Sarkars, this was divided into several Parganas, and Parganas consisted of many villages. So we know that village was the smallest administrative unit. In towns, an official called Kotwal was there to look into the administration. Okay. And now we talk about the army organization. How was it done? So for proper organization of the army, Akbar introduced the Mansabdari system. Term Mansab meaning the rank or position. He gave a rank or mansab to each official in his service. The mansabdars, they had to maintain horsemen and recruit them for fighting battles for the emperor. So they had a huge responsibility. Mansabdars, they were the lowest rank, was required to maintain 10 horsemen, while one with the highest was responsible for maintaining 7,000 horsemen. So with great power comes great responsibility, and the mansab above 5,000, they were reserved for the members of the royal family. And how were these mansabdars awarded or paid? They were given jagirs, or probably piece of land, and they were also given a fixed share of the revenue. So a mansabdar was entitled to a fixed share of the revenue from his jagir as salary for his service to the emperor. And of course, this was not a hereditary position. This was a very good part. With the passing away of the mansabdar, his jagir is reverted. So it went back to the emperor, and who could grant it to somebody else. Okay. Then we talk about the revenue system. So finance minister, we know Raja Todarmal. He basically, sorry. So I'm sorry, one second. So we have studied basically about the Mansabdari system. All right. Moving ahead. All right. So now we talk about the revenue system. What was that like? Okay. So finance minister Raja Todarmal, he basically followed the land revenue system of the Afghan ruler, Shesha Suri. You remember that? So he formulated a new land revenue system, which was also called as Todarmal's Bandobast. Okay, so the kind of scheme that he made. So tax was assessed on every landholder of the empire. A bamboo stick equal to the length of one jari was used. Jari was a land measurement unit. Land, of course, was divided into categories. So based on fertility. So pollard cultivated every year, paroti once in 2 years, chachar once in 3 or 4 years, and banjar which was once in 5 years. And what about the shalap? We are going to study that. Okay. And of course, we know that in times of drought, the farmers were given loans and land revenue was also reduced. Trade, when we talk about trade during his reign, the Portuguese, they were allowed to set trading posts on the west coast. The Indian traders exported spices, indigo, and textiles, and to facilitate trade, a standard currency in the form of gold or silver or copper coins was introduced. Now we talk about the religious policy. So it was based on the principle of Salhakul, which means universal peace and peace with all. All right. And a very positive point about Akbar's rule was that he had a very secular outlook. He did not discriminate at all on the basis of religion. According to him, all religions were equal. So there was no forced conversion. There wasn't something like that. If you are a non-Muslim, you will have to pay a high tax or something like that. So there was no discrimination on the basis of religion. And Akbar also succeeded in winning the friendship of Rajput rulers and accept the common Hindus. So we know that, like I told you, the taxes like jizya and pilgrimage tax, these were earlier imposed on Hindus. Now they were removed. They were completely abolished. Hindus were allowed to build temples and celebrate their festivals freely. He did not discriminate among Hindus who served in his administration. In fact, gave them a lot of respect. So taking example of Birbal, Man Singh, Raja Todarmal, so all of these. And Rajput princes whom Akbar had married, they were allowed to pursue their religion. So they were never forced to convert themselves. And he also gave land grants to persons of all religions. Talking about Din-e-Ilahi, regular discussions at the Ibadat Khana, this enlightened Akbar about the fundamental ideas of various religions. So Akbar also had a lot of interest in the various other religions. So he liked listening about the stories related to other religions, and he founded the Din-e-Ilahi, which contained the fundamental ideas of major religions. So it wasn't a new religion. It's just a culmination of all the religions, a kind of spiritual order for certain conduct. What was the literature and music like? All right. So here we're talking about Navratans. So we know that in Akbar's court we had Navratans, that is meaning 9 jewels. 9 extraordinary people. Who were these? Abul Faisal, who was Akbar's chief advisor and also the author of Akbarnama. Remember Babarnama, Humayunama? So there was another book called Akbarnama, which was written by Abul Faisal. Faizi, who was Akbar's poet. Mian Tansen, we know, a very renowned singer who converted to Islam. Birbal, known for his intelligence, his wittiness. Raja Todarmal, Akbar's finance minister. Raja Man Singh, who was a trusted general. And Abdul Rahim Khana, a noble and a renowned poet. And Fakir Aziuddin and Mullah Do Riaz. So these were the 9 jewels. Now we talk about the architecture. So major architectural works that were carried out during Akbar's rule, they are the city of Fatehpur Sikri, the Agra Fort, the Buland Darwaza. And because he had close association with Rajputs, the architectural style was also based on the kind of style that was there in or that was built by Rajputs. And he founded the Fatehpur Sikri to commemorate his victory over Mewan. Notable structures within Fatehpur Sikri. What are these? Diwane Khas, Jodha Bhai's Palace, Buland Darwaza, Panch Mahal, Ibadat Khana, and the tomb of Sufi mystic Sheikh Salim Chishti. And Akbar, he built the Buland Darwaza to commemorate his conquest in Gujarat. It is the highest gateway in the world. Let's have a look at the pictures of all these monuments. Okay. So this is the tomb of Salim Chishti in Fatehpur Sikri. You can see the Panch Mahal. Then you can see the Diwane Khas, which is there in Agra, the strong boundary wall of Agra Fort, and this is Akbar's tomb at Sikandrabad here. Okay. So basically, marvel pieces of architecture were also seen during Akbar's reign. Correct? So I hope all of you enjoyed reading about Akbar's story. Correct? So I'm going to meet you all in the next class. Till then, bye-bye.